Hey Aggies, need to get to Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth Metro, Austin, San Antonio, or other cities? Ditch the bus and try Hitch to book a guaranteed car ride. Hitch, comfy, safe, and affordable daily rides between Texas cities. As an official transportation provider, Hitch even has pickup locations right on campus. Download the Hitch app or visit ridehitch.com. Enter the code AggieLand for 30% off your first 4 rides. That's ridehitch.com. Welcome back to the Home Turf Podcast. It's me, Hunter Mitchell, joined here by my co-host, Cade Harris.
Back again. Got a little breakdown of a disappointing game on Saturday, but hopefully something more to look forward to this next Saturday.
We got 2 days. We had 2 days to digest, 2 extra days to digest.
Shout out fall break.
Shout out fall break. Gotta love fall break. That's why we didn't have any soccer or volleyball today, as was slated. Just had a nice little break, a little break going. But there's absolutely zero breaks for Texas A&M football, at least not this week. Going into what you could possibly argue is their biggest and toughest game of the year so far.
Yeah.
Even after coming off of the Bama game.
Definitely, just because, I would agree that it's their toughest. Maybe not because the team that they're facing is tougher, but tougher atmosphere. Situation, exactly. Yeah, like you're coming off a disappointing loss. How's the team going to respond to something like that? Yeah, I would agree with that.
Going to Neyland Stadium, one of the toughest places to play.
Always tough.
Not just the SEC, I'd probably argue the country. It's a very tough environment, all up there in Rocky Top. Clean air, no smoggy smoke. It's tough. It's a super menacing environment, and A&M has not really had a real road game this year. I mean, you had Miami, which was just like it was fine. Miami's not really known for bringing people out of the woodworks to go see their games, and it's gonna be a lot more hostile of an environment. Yet prime time on CBS, it's it's a tough one.
Yeah, and it's been a trend that A&M's road woes have, continued to hurt them. Tennessee has won at home a lot of times in a row. I'm going to have to check when their last loss was, but it was...
This statistical...
a lot of times.
How many times have they won in a row?
A lot of times.
A lot.
And A&M's lost a lot of times on the road. I mean, going back to Calzada's win against Missouri in 2021, there hasn't been a true road win. That's not good. And the trend's going to have to reverse this weekend.
Sometime.
They got 3 more chances this year to do it, and shoot, I mean, this would probably be the toughest, if not the second toughest. And so, I mean, what better way to do it than in Knoxville in front of that home crowd? But it's still going to be a long shot.
Yeah, this game has a lot of, if you're like me, I love looking at like matchups from units. And there's a lot of really interesting ones. The main one to point out is that Alabama had 7 quarterback hurries and 5 sacks, which felt like more. It felt like every single play someone was in Max Johnson's face, and that's really why the offense couldn't get going in the second half. But it is no easier this week as Tennessee comes in the nation's best in total team sacks. The big 0-1 in team sacks.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That offensive line probably had their worst game this past weekend.
Oh, easily.
It was just getting absolutely ran through by that Alabama D line.
And it just doesn't get any easier.
Exactly.
It gets a lot harder. They've got let's see. Like they got James Pierce. He's 5th in the country in solo sacks. 5th in the country in solo sacks. You have Tyler Barron, who is tied for 21st in the country in solo sacks. I mean, they've got a lot of weapons on that line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's not good because, I mean, A&M's offense, it showed early on in the season that hey, maybe there could be some improvements, but it's really gone a little bit stagnant here come SEC play. Like it just really hasn't. Uh, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with that offensive line just not being able to provide protection for Max, especially a quarterback who likes to hold on to the ball for as long as he does. Um, so yeah, if that's the case with the Tennessee's defensive line, good luck.
Yeah, it's really you like to see them get challenged to try to improve them, but man, this is not the environment you want to go do that. But A&M is not at all far behind Tennessee in total team sacks. You know where they're at. Take a
Give me
stab.
like 23.
Take it. No, 23. A lot closer.
Wait, what do you mean?
They're
Like,
a lot closer to Tennessee. In
oh,
total
I
team
wasn't
sacks.
given
Oh no, give me a
ranking.
ranking. Yeah, give me a ranking.
Oh, A&M's ranking. Oh,
Yeah, total team sacks.
is it 3,
Closer.
2?
We have the number 1 and the number 2 team in the country in total team sacks.
Wow, that's interesting because I mean obviously they're gonna be on display against each other, and I mean I think that's those matchups kind of cancel out. But how does the offensive line for Tennessee fare compared to A&M's?
Yeah, and that's
That'd
the
be
thing.
interesting.
But the thing about that is, so we talked about my power rankings about how Tennessee has pivoted a little bit from the air to the ground, and you want to talk about their offensive line performance. If there's one thing that's indicative of solid offensive line performance, it is their rushing offense.
Mm-hmm.
And Tennessee is number 7th in the country in rushing offense. They average 230 yards on the ground. Jalen Wright is 11th in the country in rushing yards per carry and 29th in rushing yards per game. And not only that, they have another running back, Dylan Sampson, who is tied for 24th in rushing touchdowns. So they get running yards, and not only just running yards, explosive running yards.
Mm.
They are big play runners on the ground, which when you look at A&M defensively, plays a little bit into A&M's strengths as well, which is one of the places I think is obviously the most interesting matchup going into this is can A&M continue the run defense? Like, who's going to bend, who's going to break? Is A&M going to force Tennessee to throw the ball where they have had difficulties? Or is Tennessee going to come out, expose A&M's run defense by just jamming it down their throat and playing their game? Who's going to get to play their game really? Because Milton he's not been Hendon Hooker by any means. He's 14th in SEC in yards per attempt. The offense as a whole is 75th in terms of pass plays over 30 yards, which is they were number 1 in last year.
Wow.
They have really struggled through not necessarily struggled through the air. They haven't been good through the air. They haven't been what you would expect from them through the air, but that's because they've been gotten a lot of good production from their run defense, from the run offense. So they haven't had to. So I think for A&M, the big key of the game is stopping their run and forcing them to throw the ball, which, when you look at what happened last week, is exactly what happened against Bama, and
They had performances like that.
they got picked apart.
Yeah. I'd still say that Joe Milton is a better quarterback than Milroe. And
Yeah, I
so
can agree with that.
he's definitely, capable of a game that Milroe had against, our secondary, and obviously missing Brew McCoy is not good for their receiving core, but they still have a solid receiving core that
Squirrel.
can squirrel. Yeah, no, they still have a solid receiving core that can expose the A&M DBs. If they were to be forced into that situation where they need to throw, I still think that being said, definitely favors A&M because no team has really proved that they can run on them very much.
No, I mean held Alabama to 23. Now Bama hasn't been as run heavy as they have in the past,
Right.
but I mean still Alabama, and still they're still going to try to put an emphasis on the run and really just stuffed them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean that's gonna have to continue. and the DBs are going to have to protect better. Like, I'm hoping maybe that there's a little bit of a personnel change. We've been, happy a little bit with what we've seen from Josh DeBerry early on in the season.
Oof.
He's good he's good tackling in space. He that's pretty much all I can say about him. he just, oh
Yeah.
man, like in coverage is just brutal, getting beat 1-on-1 all the time. I mean, Jermaine Burton just absolutely cooked him this weekend, picked him apart.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, they put him in man. He got torched in man. They put him in zone. He got torched in zone. Yeah, it was rough. That A&M secondary had a really, really bad showing. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, and buts around it. It just didn't look good. They did exactly what their game plan was, which is kind of exactly what the Tennessee game plan was: stop the run, force them to throw, and they just couldn't take advantage.
Mm-mm. Nope, they couldn't. Especially there in that second half in those crucial third downs where they scored all those touchdowns. It felt like is when the DBs they they folded under the pressure.
Yeah, no, I mean, just absolutely got schooled, and so I think that's what the key is. Is it kind of sounds silly, but can A&M's weak units step up and be at least decent units? It's kind of like duh, like,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be it's kind of comedic or poetic, however when you look at it. How like this game you're coming into is you have these two units that get exposed, and they both get a really good opportunity to show if they can get better and if they can improve. For the secondary, it's can they, if A&M forces them to pass, can they take advantage of that and exploit an offense that hasn't had the most success passing the ball? For the offensive line, can they show out against a
Dominant defensive
yeah
line.
yeah against a, yeah can they show out against a defensive line that's just been massacring opponents? Um, so there's two really good opportunities here, and it's who's going to step up, because then even then everyone else, all the other units do as well, simply because of the nature of the game, which is like it is again like I mentioned one of their first true road games. Can young running backs who haven't played in this environment, can young wide receivers who haven't had an environment like this, all step in, all perform? There's a lot of huge question marks, um, and we won't know till the game happens. But it's just a lot of concern on who is going to step up and who's really really going to play good solid football.
Hmm. And like you mentioned, that's a concern. Like, it's very concerning, and it's why I don't tend to have a lot of confidence for the Aggies this weekend. Because like you said, mentioned, too many question marks. Can the offensive line step up? Can the DB step up? Just like you said, it's going to come down to those weaker spots, and that's never a good thing. If I feel like.
Yeah, I think coming into a game like this with questions, facing a team who's coming off a bye at home,
Mm-hmm.
prime time game, you're coming off a disappointing loss. I think there's a lot of things stacking against A&M in this matchup. I think that Tennessee's they're getting Tennessee at the best spot, and A&M's getting Tennessee at the worst spot for them. Um, you don't want your like unit that's struggling to have to step up against the best unit in the country in terms of sacks. Um, it's a tough game plan in terms of that, and I think with such a quick turnaround as opposed to Tennessee, who's been prepping for will now be 2 weeks. It's a real hard ask for A&M, and they may come in and rise to the challenge, but it's gonna be really hard.
For sure. And if they were to do that, then holy cow, hats off to the team. And after a week of a lot of criticism, hats off to Jimbo. I mean, he would have to get a lot of credit for controlling his team and getting them focused for a team that's been preparing for you for 2 weeks on the road. Not a good road environment to play in for the road team. I did get the official stat for you. November 13th, 2021 was the last time Tennessee lost at home.
Wow, was that who was that?
Against Georgia. So, I mean, understandable, but yeah,
they should have won that one.
Yeah, so if they were to win though,
yeah,
holy cow!
Yeah, that would be huge.
That'd
momentum.
be a massive win for the end of the season.
Yeah,
just carrying on because you finally broke through that road curse.
Yeah,
would be just a huge step for this team.
But the real question is, do you think they do that?
No. Even before this podcast, I didn't think they would. But just listening to more of your breakdown about their D line and it's a bad recipe with the way this A&M offensive line is playing. And I think the Volunteers will win 27-24. It'll be a closer game than I think some might think, and I could definitely see Tennessee winning this one, pretty convincingly. But yeah. I'm sticking with 27-24 Volunteers.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I talked with Caleb Giroux from the Daily Beacon. Shout out Daily Beacon for all your Tennessee sports news. By students, for students, et cetera, et cetera. I talked to him yesterday, and I said 31-24, I think. I think it's more so, I think Tennessee's defense is going to give them more opportunities to score than A&M's. I think they'll capitalize and take advantage of that. It's just too tough of an ask for A&M, I think. It's too hard of an environment to go into, and coming off a bye, Tennessee has good momentum. I think it's good rest. I think it's just a recipe that doesn't work out in A&M's favor, and that's not to say that A&M couldn't go out and be competitive. I'm not completely pulling all the cards from them, but I think it's more about the situation, like we mentioned, and less about what this team can actually do. I think it's just a victim of circumstance, really. I think it's just a really, really rough draw for the Aggies for this one.
Yeah, totally. I agree with all of that. The circumstances are just incredibly enormous for the Aggies, I think, to overmount this week.
Yeah. But that's all for us for this week covering.
I hope we're wrong.
Football. Yeah, hey, we were wrong last week.
I hope we come back talking next week and we're happy heading into a bye.
So silly.
But I can't see it happening.
Yeah, no, it looks. I don't know. Again, we were wrong last week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with being wrong.
2 weeks in a row of being wrong, I will take it.
I'd rather be 2 weeks in a row of being wrong than 1 week of us being right. So
that's for sure. It's never a good thing when we're right.
But that is it for this week for the Home Tour Podcast. I'm Hunter Mitchell.
I'm Cade Harris.
And we will catch y'all next time.